What if I told you a so-called madman once saved a king, outsmarted his enemies, and rose higher than the wisest advisors of the land? This isn't just a story, it's a lesson about destiny, envy, and the power of truth. Stay with me till the end, because the twist will leave you speechless. Long ago, in a distant land, there was a kingdom ruled by King Edward. He was a kind-hearted man, but not the sharpest of rulers. Because of this, he was always searching for wise and clever people who could guide him, people who could help his kingdom grow strong and defeat its enemies. But sadly, King Edward felt disappointed in his advisors. They only gave him empty advice and collected fat salaries in return. Their words had no real wisdom, no spark of genius that could lead the kingdom forward. This constant thought often left the king restless. One day, hoping for clarity, King Edward decided to take his courtiers on a hunting trip into the forest. Perhaps nature itself would guide him toward an answer. After a long day of hunting and enjoyment, the king and his men began their journey back. Suddenly, the king's eyes fell on a strange sight, a man sitting alone under a massive oak tree, talking to himself. From a distance, he looked like a lunatic. Curiosity struck King Edward. He thought, either this man is insane, or he is someone with extraordinary wisdom who has lost himself in his own world. The king rode closer with his courtiers and began to speak with the man. At first glance, the man seemed half mad, but the more he spoke, the more his words carried a strange pull, a power that made everyone listen. King Edward asked gently, "Young man, are you insane? Why are you talking to yourself?" The man smiled boldly and replied, "No, I'm not mad. You are. You and your entire court. I am perfectly fine. I only dream of cutting down this forest, building grand palaces here, and becoming the king myself." The confidence and bluntness in his words startled everyone. Such words could come either from a fool or from a man of fearless genius. The king was struck silent for a moment, unsure what to make of him. The courtiers, however, quickly grew uneasy. They whispered among themselves. Some feared that if this stranger became the king's close advisor, they would all lose their power and influence. Others scoffed, claiming he was nothing but a lunatic who could never be trusted with real matters of state. At last, they suggested to the king, "Take him with us. If he's truly wise, he may prove useful. And if he's just a madman, we can always get rid of him later." King Edward agreed and ordered the man to be brought back to the palace. But on the way, the stranger suddenly turned his horse and tried to escape. He was quickly caught and dragged back under guard. When they returned to the palace, they were met with an astonishing scene. People were gathered in the streets cheering, celebrating the king's safe return. Confused, King Edward asked, "What is this celebration for?" The people shouted, "Your Majesty! While you were away, enemy soldiers were lying in ambush on your hunting route. We thought you would never return alive, but you must have changed your path. You are truly wise." The king froze, realizing what had happened. He turned his eyes toward the so-called madman, who had unknowingly, or perhaps knowingly, led them on a different path, saving them all. The king thought to himself, "This man is no ordinary fool. He may be the wisest of them all." Immediately, King Edward ordered a special seat to be prepared beside his throne. "From today, this man shall remain with me," he declared. The courtiers protested. "Your Majesty, he is a madman. He could harm you. Only we, your wise advisors, should sit beside you." But the king silenced them. "No, this man saved my life without even trying. Not one of you knew of the enemy waiting in ambush. That is true wisdom." The man smiled proudly and sat beside the king. From that moment on, jealousy began to burn in the hearts of the courtiers. For generations they had ruled from those seats of power. They could not tolerate an outsider, and worse, a man everyone called insane, sitting at their level. But what God grants, no one can take away. The courtiers tried many schemes to disgrace the madman, to push him into foolish mistakes. Each time their tricks backfired, and his honor only grew greater. Jealous courtiers plotted, "Convince him that in our traditions, slapping the king is a sign of respect." Gabriel, innocent and gullible, agreed. The next day, in front of the court, Gabriel walked up and struck King Edward across the neck with a loud smack. The crown flew off his head and hit the floor. The court gasped in horror until they saw what crawled out from under the crown, a large, venomous scorpion. One sting would have killed the king instantly. The insult had become the greatest act of loyalty. Not done yet, the courtiers tried another trick. They told Gabriel, "Tomorrow, when the king sits down, pull the chair away. He'll reward you with half the kingdom." Gabriel did as told. As the king began to sit, the chair was yanked back. The room erupted in chaos. But instead of anger, King Edward noticed something chilling. One of the throne's legs had already been cracked. Had he put his full weight on it, he would have fallen hard, possibly injured, or worse, assassinated by hidden blades. Again, Gabriel's so-called foolish act had saved the king's life. The jealous courtiers had tried everything to destroy Gabriel. Every trick, every trap, had only lifted him higher in the eyes of King Edward. Now desperate, they conspired with the neighboring ruler, King Roland, an ambitious monarch who had always envied Edward's lands. They sent Roland a secret letter. "Attack now! Do not fear Edward's army. His so-called general, the madman, must be your only target. Kill him, and victory will be yours. We will not resist." King Roland, hungry for expansion, agreed. He prepared his army in silence, waiting for the chance to strike. Meanwhile, the courtiers returned to Edward, their faces full of fake concern. They staged a scene. Some of them even wounded themselves and appeared in front of the king, crying out, "Your Majesty, the enemy approaches. They are slaughtering our people. We cannot remain silent. We must fight now, or tomorrow will be too late." The king, alarmed and stirred by their cries, beat the war drums. Soon his forces marched toward the frontier, Gabriel leading them as commander-in-chief. When Edward's army reached the border forests, they found Roland's soldiers lined up in full armor, ready for blood. The tension was so thick that even the horses snorted nervously. Gabriel rode forward, his sword gleaming under the sun. Instead of ordering an immediate charge, he raised his hand. "Wait, first, I will face their king myself." His words stunned the army, a single duel, man to man, before thousands of soldiers. Some whispered, "He's insane," but others thought, "He's fearless." From the opposite side, King Roland stepped out. He too was a warrior, tall and broad-shouldered. He drew his sword and faced Gabriel in the clearing. The two men circled each other in silence, soldiers from both sides holding their breath. Then, from the shadows of the dense trees, a monstrous roar split the air. A lion, massive and wild-eyed, leapt into the clearing. It lunged, not at Gabriel but at Roland. The beast's claws raked across Roland's armor, dragging him to the ground. The soldiers gasped in horror. Without hesitation, Gabriel charged. His sword clashed against the lion's hide. The beast roared and swiped, nearly knocking him off his feet. The duel turned into chaos, a dance of steel against fury. Gabriel's first strike barely grazed the lion. His second drove deeper, but the lion countered with its massive jaws, tearing through Gabriel's shield. Still, Gabriel did not back away. With one final cry, he thrust his blade straight into the lion's heart. The beast shuddered, roared, and collapsed. Dust and silence filled the air. King Roland, bruised and bleeding, expected death. Instead, Gabriel sheathed his sword, pulled Roland to his feet, and carried him back to his soldiers. Everyone, friend and foe alike, watched in disbelief. Roland, breathless and humbled, raised his hand to stop the battle. "There will be no war. Not today. not against this man. He saved me when he could have let me die. How can I raise a sword against such honor?" Edward, watching from afar, felt his heart swell with pride. This man, he does not fight for power or revenge. He fights with honor, even for his enemies. Gabriel turned back, his clothes torn, his hands bloodied, but his spirit unbroken. In that moment, he wasn't just the king's general. He was the protector of kingdoms, the man even an enemy king bowed to. And once again, the courtiers' grand plot crumbled. Instead of disgrace, Gabriel's name spread like wildfire across the land. The madman had become a legend. The jealous courtiers seethed with rage, but every plot they wove ended in failure. Until one day, an old courtier, wiser and gentler than the rest, spoke up. "My friends, stop this madness. Don't you see? This man may look like a fool, but God has granted him a special gift. No matter what we do, we cannot take away the honor that God himself has given him. And if we kill him, his honor will only grow. Accept the truth. Destiny is not in our hands." And so it was. The madman, whose name was Gabriel, lived a life of respect and love. When he finally passed away, the people of the kingdom remembered him not as a fool, but as a man chosen by fate. The courtiers returned to their old positions, but the lesson stayed alive forever. Envy and jealousy destroy only the heart of the envious. True honor, true respect, comes only from God. If someone has been lifted high, it is either by their effort, their unique qualities, or by destiny itself. Instead of hating them, learn from them.